Salvation, Allah, unity. Part yourself. Let me start with our pledge of allegiance. This unity that we, the sons and daughters of the ancient Moabite blood, have established upon these shores of northwest of Maxim, this alien civilization, shall be preserved at all costs through the bonds of Ali's holy and divine laws. If we violate these universal laws and principles by preferring a stranger before their own blood, may the flaming swords of our forefathers turn upon us, the wrath of Allah strike us down 7 times. We pledge our allegiance to Prophet Noble Jew Ali and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Time never was Islam. We will now have a reading of the Moorish American Constitution. The temple rules, please sign in, and the attendance chat, the link. Somebody please post the link, refresh the link for us. Salvation, Allah, unity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Act 1. The Grand Sheikh and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheikh is to assist the Grand Sheikh if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest, because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended into his Father God Allah. For that cause Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No members to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother and sister on any occasion at all. They may harm his brother and sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality. We are teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folk, black people, or Ethiopians, because these names was given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era in time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name and be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Jew Ali the Prophet to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of uplifting the fallen humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. Islam, Islam, Islam. Now I have a reading from the questionnaire and additional laws for Moorish Americans by the Prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Act 1. The Grand Sheikhs, governors, and heads of all temples, all businesses. Each said temple must be approved by the Prophet, Noble Jew Ali, before acting upon any members. Let it be financed, property, or any line of life that would cause the members to sacrifice, finance, etc., that would cause the support of any group of members. Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under heavy restriction, etc., by the prophet or the grand sheik. Act 2. All members are to attend their 8-up meeting and public meetings promptly. If a member is found standing around on their meeting period, shall be fined 50 cents on the first case, and on the second, he will be fined $1. This will go in your emergency fund. If a member is working, his monthly dues must be paid. If he has money in the bank, he must subscribe for as much as he is able to the Moorish Uplifting Fund, because it takes finance to uplift the nation. Act 3. It is the lawful and divine duty of every good member, if he is able in finance, to aid me in saving the nation. If he does not, he is an enemy to the cause of uplifting his own people, and justice must catch him. Let it be he or she according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I have the power invested in my hands, and I will have to enforce the law in order to save the nation. Act 4. All members, while making a public speech, must not use any assertion against the American flag or speak radically against the church and any member of any organized group, because we are to teach love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Act 5. All members must promptly attend their meetings and send their children to Sunday school, and the teacher must confirm himself to the questionnaire. Let every member exercise his 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from Sunday school comes the God as a nation. Act 6 and Act 7, in conjunction with the divine constitution and bylaws. All rise for the reading of the Moorish American prayer. Face the east. Heels touching. Feet at a 90-degree angle. Spread your wings, angels. Repeat after me. Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Ali. Amen. Salvation, Allah, and unity, you not to be seated, Moorish. Arise and give perfect praise to Father God, Allah, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The highest principles known to man, instituted by Allah, Almighty, eternal, incomprehensible. Allah, my protector, my God, my salvation. Also, I want to give high honors to his holy prophet, the prophet of Allah, Noble Drew Ali, who came and taught us our birthrights, our inalienable rights, which are human rights, tied us back to the human family, taking us out of the corporate warship status of being Negro, Black, and colored, putting us back into the human family, and establishing us as a nation so we can honor our forefathers. High honors to know his forerunner, Marcus Garvey, who paved the way for Noble Drew Ali, prepared the souls and hearts of the Negro in order for him to be uplifted. All honors to Marcus Garvey for those reasons. All honors to our supreme staff in Mecca, our supreme grand sheik, King Lumar Bey. All honors to all the Moorish Science temples of America. All honors to all the grand sheiks for their leadership, their dedication, and their commitment to uplift and follow humanity. High honors to all the faithful members for making your meetings promptly, paying your dues, keeping up with the necessities, making yourself part and parcel of all uplifting acts. High honors to the faithful. And to the unfaithful, high honors to you as well. For Allah has a reward for you all. When you think you're going away from Allah, the Quran says you're coming closer to Allah. So high honors to everyone that's hearing the vibrations of my sound, of my voice. Today's subject matter, human rights versus civil rights. It's very important that we speak on this subject of human rights versus civil rights because a lot of people don't understand their rights of being inalienable rights. This class, I should say, is dedicated to the brother Martin Luther King Jr. High honors to that brother for bringing us certain things, that messages that he brought throughout his lifetime. One thing I want to speak on, the brother, is that he did tell us that we will be exiled in our own land. Friday, we went through what it means to be exiled. It means to be subject to someone else's government. Being Negro, Black, and colored made us subject to United States corporate government, which took away our human rights. High honors to Noble Prophet for restoring those rights to us. Now, it was a diversion that happened after the Prophet had died. And what happened was they started the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement was started as a diversion to get us away from our unalienable rights. As customary, I will go into the questionnaire, confirm myself to the questionnaire. I want to deal with Key 57 today. Key 57 says, who were Adam and Eve? They were the mothers and fathers of the human family, Asiatic and Muslim. 58 said, where did they go? They went into Asia. 59, what is the modern name given to their children? The Asiatics. Key 60, who is guarding the holy seat of Mecca today to keep the unbelievers away? The angels. Key 61, what is the modern name for those angels? And that's Asiatics. Key 62 even says, what is the shade of their skin? Olive. Key 63, are the Moorish Americans in relation to those angels? Yes, we all have the same mother and father. So this relates to us being a part of the human family. The reason why it's so important to know you have to be a part of the human family because you have human rights. A lot of us not aware of our rights, so the Prophet had the Grand Sheiks teach you nationality, which is human rights. No matter what part of government you have, you still have human rights. Civil rights is dealing with corporations. You have civil rights at work. If you work for a corporation that's registered in the United States of America, they can't discriminate against your race, nationality, gender, sex, age. These type of things are known as civil rights. Civil rights is also dealing with segregation, like the big case back in the 60s, Brown versus the Board of Education, when we were segregated and not allowed to enter into European schools. Those are civil rights. But what I want to speak on is something way more higher than civil rights, and these are human rights. Human rights are the most important rights that we ever can have. So let me screen share something that I researched and brought to the table from the United Nations on human rights. This is from the Office of the High Commissioner. So the reason why I want to go into this document, because this document explains to us our human rights. It's a universal declaration of human rights. I'm gonna read the preamble, and then we all take turns reading from this document. Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the preamble. So the preamble deals with the intention of this document. The intent of this document was to declare our human rights. So let's go into this preamble. Whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. So just as this first paragraph, we can see, we broke down Friday in Holy Day service. What is the definition of recognition? To be recognized means to be under the jurisdiction of something. This deals with tying us back to the human family. And it's also the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace. So where else do we get those foundation principles? That's in our 5 highest principles. This is what we mean by when we say we have the 5 highest principles known to man. Freedom, justice, and peace. Our principles are love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So it's not different or nothing strange what we practice. So when you put these principles into your life, what are you really saying? You're really saying that you're invoking human rights, your inalienable rights. You have the right to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. That is the foundation all over the world. And you can see it right here from the United Nations. Continue reading. Whereas disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind, and the advent of the world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom of speech and belief and freedom from fear and want has been proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the common people. Whereas it is essential, if man is not to be compelled to have recourse as a last resort to rebellion against tyranny and oppression, that human rights should be protected by the rule of law. Whereas it is essential to promote the development of friendly relations between nations. Pardon yourself. Whereas the peoples of the United Nations have in the Charter reaffirmed their faith in fundamental human rights and the dignity and the worth of the human person and the equal rights of men and women, and have determined to promote social progress and better standards of life and larger freedom. Whereas member states have pledged themselves to achieve, in cooperation with the United Nations, the promotion of universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms. Whereas a common understanding of these rights and freedoms is of the greatest importance for the full realization of this pledge. Now, therefore, the General Assembly proclaims this Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations, to the end that every individual and every organ of society, keeping this declaration constantly in mind, shall strive by teaching and education to promote respect for these rights and freedoms, and by progressive measures, national and international, to secure the universal and effective recognition and observance both among the peoples of member states themselves and among the peoples of territories under their jurisdiction. So we can see clearly what's the intent of the General Assembly when they came together to pledge and proclaim the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This is a universal declaration. And who's the father of the universe? Allah. So it's nothing strange that we practice here. We here to educate ourselves under the teachings of your Grand Sheikh and under the instructions of the Holy Prophet of what it means to have human rights. What is love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice? How does it deal in international law? This is nationality when we're dealing with our 5 principles. That's why nationality is and our principles are in our national flag, I should say. Our all red flag with the 5-pointed green star says love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So those 5 principles are to a flag. So that's letting you know that this is an international standard. This is the flag of an empire. So all nations are under this 5 principles. this impregnable doctrine of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. I want to talk about the difference between human rights and civil rights. So for us to get a clear understanding of what human rights is, let's read about these human rights from United Nations. Can I get a volunteer reader to begin?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. Article 1. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in spirit of brotherhood. Article 2. Everyone entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration, without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory in which a person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or under any other limitation of sovereignty. Article 3. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Article 4. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. Slavery and the slave trade shall be prohibited in all their forms. Article 5. No one shall be subject to torture or to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment of punishment. Article 6. Everyone has the right to recognition everywhere as a person before the law. Article 7. All are equal before the law and are entitled without any discrimination to equality, protection of the law. All are entitled to equal protection against any discrimination in violation of this declaration and against any incitement of such discrimination. Article 8. Everyone has the right to and effect remedy by the component of national tribunal
Competent.
or acts by, competent national tribunal for acts violating the fundamental rights granted by him by the Constitution or by law. Article 9. No one shall be subject to arbitrary arrest or detention or exile. Article 10. Everyone is entitled to equally to a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal in the determination of his rights and obligations and of any criminal charge against him.
All right.
Article. That's it. You want me to stop there?
Yeah, stop there. Thank you.
All right.
I want to revise. I want to go over a couple of these articles. We see in Article 9, it says, no one shall be subject to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. So what did we read was exile was dealing with us to be subject to someone else's government. So our human rights, we don't have to be a U.S. citizen. As a Moorish American, when you proclaim your nationality, you are restoring your rights. This is the restoration of our estate. Article 8 says everyone has a right to an effective remedy by the competent national tribunals for acts violating the fundamental rights granted him by the Constitution or by law. So that's very important. When the prophet told us the enforcement of the Constitution was what he was asking us to help him with, this is what he meant. Because by the Constitution, you have an effective remedy. But the problem is we are in state courts. State courts are not national tribunals. That's why we went over Article 3. What does Article 3 deals with? Diversity of citizenship by nationality. So you have to have a tribunal that's competent. What's competent? Competent means legally fit or legally able to understand the national and international principles of international law and treaties. Some, well, I won't say some, I would say majority of lawyers that go to the bar membership and go to law school are not given these national standards. So they're not competent in international law. Some are. That's a very small amount. But when you're dealing as a Moorish American national, you have to be competent so you can protect your fundamental rights. These rights are fundamental. These rights are inalienable. These rights cannot be bought, transferred, or sold to anyone. Islam articles in here. So this only has like 30 articles. Okay. So we're on Article 11. Let's get the next reader. Start at Article 11. You have any readers available? See Michael Lewis ill, Michael Jill's ill here. Islam Muslims, are you able to read?
You said Article 11?
Yes, Article 11.
Okay. Everyone charged with a penal offense has the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty, according to the law, in a public trial at which he has had all the guarantees necessary for his defense. No one shall be held guilty for any penal offense on account of any act or omission which did not constitute a penal offense under national or international law at the time when it was committed, nor shall a heavier penalty be imposed than the one that was applicable at the time of the penal offense was committed.
Keep reading. Read all the way
Okay.
down to Article 20.
No one shall be subject to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, nor attacks upon his honor or reputation. Everyone has the right to protection of the law against such interference or attacks. Article 13. Everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, to return to his country. 14. Everyone has the right to seek and enjoy in other countries asylum from prosecution. This right may not be invoked in the case of prosecutions genuinely arising from non-political crimes or from acts contrary to the purposes and principles of the United Nations. Article 15. Everyone has the right to a nationality. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his nationality nor denied the right to change his nationality. Men and women of full age without any limitation due to race, nationality, or religion have the right to marry and to found a family. They are entitled to equal rights as to marriage, during marriage, and at its dissolution. Marriage shall be entered into only with the free and full consent of the intending spouses. The family is the natural and fundamental group unit of society and is entitled to protection by society and the state. Article 17. Everyone has the right to own property alone as well as in association with others. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his property. 18. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others, and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. 19. Everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference, and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontier. Article 20. Everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. No one may be compelled to belong to an association.
Islam.
So,
Thank you for that reading. So let's revisit this. So it starts with Article 11. It says everyone charged with a penal offense has the right to be presumed innocent until found guilty, according to law, in a public trial, which he has all the guarantees necessary for his defense. That's very important when we're dealing with these penal offenses from the state. It's called due process of law. So Article 11 deals with the due process of law. It's a process that you must go to. You shouldn't be imprisoned or held to unreasonable fines, such as bail and bonds, as you are guilty. This is for someone who's guilty. You are to be presumed innocent, no matter what evidence you have against you. But we know this is not the case in the United States. Part itself. This is not the case in the United States. It's not the case when we're dealing with these state courts and state charges. We are under what they call Bill of Attaiндers. Bill of Attaiндers take away your rights and treat you as guilty before you presume innocent. And these are only done in times of war. So the United States have declared war against the human beings as aboriginal to the land. So we must understand this. Article 12 says no one is to be subject to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence, no attacks upon his honor and reputation. We see that every day, that we attack, that we subject to arbitrary interference, especially when dealing with our privacy. We are being searched, you get pulled over, you search, things like that without warrants. You have the right to privacy. These are principles that you see that's carried from Constitution. So when we read about the Constitution, things like that, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with certain principles. And these principles are everlasting. These principles are in all, as you can see, levels of law, even all the way up to the United Nations. These principles never change. The Fifth Amendment and the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution deals with our rights to privacy. Okay, so you see it's the same here. Article 13 says everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to return to his country. So this is a universal right. This is what we call the right to travel, the right to freedom of movement, however that looks. It's a right. You shouldn't be licensed. You shouldn't have a driver's license. We shouldn't even have a passport because we have a right to leave our country. This is not something that should be able to be revoked. I'm going to skip down to Article 15. Article 15 deals with everyone has the right to a nationality. That's very important. Everyone has a right to a nationality. So that's why we're here to teach our people nationality and divine creed. It says that no one should be deprived of his nationality nor denied the right to change his nationality. That's very important because we have proclaimed our nationality. That's what we're here to do. put our nationality on the record. They can't deny you this. This is a universal right of your human right. This is not civil. A lot of status corrections and things you hear are civil in its nature. Becoming a secured party creditor and these type of things, authenticating a birth certificate, has nothing to do with your right to a nationality. You can't be licensed. You have a nationality, and our high underside noble prophet for bringing us this right, our birthright, to know that we had a nationality. So you see that the prophet was bringing us something from international standards. He wasn't bringing us something from a low vibration. He was bringing us the highest principles known to man to return us to the highest point of life. This is what it means to be in an international world as universal rights. Islam. Hold up for 1 second. Let me get this thing.
Training.
Make sure you want to turn the feds are leading. Okay, let's continue. Article 16. It says, men and women of full age, without any limitation due to race, nationality, religion, have the right to marry and to found a family. They are entitled to equal rights as to marriage, during marriage, and at its dissolution. Men and women of full age, that means the age of majority. That means not the age of minority. So they're giving us and letting us know that we have the right as the age of majority. That means being competent in our own affairs. Being competent means you're able to contract. Minors cannot contract. So that's why it says in full age. And then clause 3 says the family is the natural and fundamental group, unit of society, and is entitled to protection by society and the state. So that's why in our divine constitution, we have certain things, even in the Quran, it has certain things to do with family. What does it say about family in the Constitution? It says, husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children. Look out the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious. Become a part of the uplifting and fall of humanity. This is what it means in our divine constitution bylaws when we dealing with family, because even in our Quran, it says that, dear fathers, by these secret lessons, you can set your household in order. See, our household has to be in order. This is part of politics of our everyday affairs. This is a natural fundamental right. And this is the foundation of a nation, is the family. So it's very important that we set our households in order, because right now it's out of order. A lot of women don't respect their husbands, their fathers. Children don't respect their fathers. Men doesn't support their wives and children. So these things have to be in order. When we talk about a woman obeying the husband, this is a very important law that the prophet put in there. He didn't just put it in there just to sound good. This is how you set your household in order. Marriage is a very important thing to international law and human rights. So I'm skipped down. 17 says everyone has the right to own property as long as well in association with others. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his property. So let's go into this word arbitrarily, because we keep seeing what it means to be arbitrarily deprived of something. ARB. More, you want to help me out right here? Read this definition for me of arbitrary. No, I gotta read it right. No, hold on, more. I got to read it right here.
Okay.
We want everybody to participate.
It's fine.
Thank you, though. Thank you, Jack. Arbitrary, Black Law Dictionary, 6th edition, reads, in an unreasonable manner, as fixed or done. Personally, what's that word? Cat. Let me see. Where up? Capriciously, without pleasure, without adequate determining principle. Not found in the nature of things, non-rational, not done or acting according to reason or judgment, depending on the will alone, absolutely in power, capriciously. Without fair, solid, or substantial cause, that is, without cause based upon the law, U.S. versus Batumia, D.C., New York. We'll stop there right fast. So you see it says that arbitrarily means without cause by the law. What is a cause? A cause means a fair trial. But you are not to be arbitrarily deprived of your property without having a fair trial. That's what we mean when we say arbitrarily. Islam. We continue reading. Willful and unreasoning action without consideration and regard for facts and circumstances presented. In Reed, West, Lemire, Wyoming, 457, ordinarily arbitrary is synonymous with bad faith or failure to exercise honest judgment, and an arbitrary act would be one performed without adequate determination of principle and one not found in the nature of things. Thank you for that reading. So we see arbitrarily is bad faith. So that's why anytime we're doing paperwork, we always say we always come in good faith. You have fair trial due process of things based on facts presented. So when we challenge jurisdiction in the courts and they deny us a hearing on that, or they deny us the right to prove that they have jurisdiction, then they arbitrarily deprive you of something, of your rights. This is fundamental. Go ahead, Dane Murray. You got your hand raised.
Yeah, what edition is he reading from?
6.
What?
That's 6th edition.
Oh, okay, because I got the 4th edition. I mean, some things are the same, but some of the things are not the same.
Yeah, that's why you want to get just different editions. You know, it's okay to start with 4th or 5th or 6th, but it's good to hear from different editions so we can see the elaboration, so we can get a full understanding. Some of these dictionaries, they do abridge, meaning they take certain things out, and you just have to cross-reference these. Do your definition have more or less than what we just read?
It has more.
Okay, can you read that for us?
Well, sure, no, not at all. Islam. So the first one, it says arbitrarily, and then it says see arbitrary, but the arbitrarily says a finding that certain orders were arbitrarily given by an engineer in charge of a public improvement did not amount to a finding that were given in a bad faith, fraudulently, or through ignorance or incompetence. And then when you go to arbitrary, it means arbitrary is in an arbitrary manner as fixed or done capriciously or at pleasure, without adequate determining principles, not found in the nature of things, non-rational, not done or acting according to reason or judgment, depending on the will alone, absolutely in power, capriciously, tyrannical, despotic. I don't know how to say that word. without fair or solid and substantial cause. That is, without cause based upon the law. And then it goes into case law.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So we can make a cross reference to this so we can get a full elaboration on what we mean to be arbitrarily deprived of our rights. This is something that's done for somebody's pleasure. It's just done for their own will. It's something out of bad faith. It's something just to benefit themselves. It has nothing to do with the principles of law. It has nothing to do with a fair trial or cause. When you don't have a fair trial and cause, then you've been arbitrarily deprived. We see this play out in a lot of situations when we arrested and different things, when people take it upon themselves to be above the law or to violate the law, when they took the oath of office to the law, which is the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. You see that in the Constitution, it says they must have a search warrant, arrest warrant before they take you to jail or take your property. Rarely do we see this principle carried out. This is what it means to be under arbitration, because we haven't seen no due process of law presented to us. What is due process of law? What does it look like? It means that they're supposed to come with an arrest warrant or search warrant, and that warrant cannot be violated by, or the due process can't be violated by police enforcers, because what happens is they sometimes, even if they do come with a warrant, they come with a search warrant and arrest you. But a search warrant is not an arrest warrant, and an arrest warrant is not a search warrant. And these warrants must be supported by a victim with an injury in fact. We went over this in the civics class about injury in fact. Somebody has to have an injury in fact, went to the proper steps of getting an indictment or getting a warrant and subpoena to the court. You're supposed to go straight to court. You're not supposed to be deprived of your liberty by going to jail. That's not due process of law, but by us being Negro, Black, and color in a system and not having a nation that's established to have government-to-government relations with these people, we fall victim to Negro, Black, and color civil rights, Negro, Black, and color violations. And, just basically the Black Code of 1724 is being enforced upon us, which says that we don't have a right to our property. When you read those rights, Negro Act of 1724, it says no Negroes can have property. We went over this, I think we went over this briefly in the civics class when we talked about Abraham Lincoln case. We spoke about it on Friday as well, about Abraham Lincoln in the defamation of character case, the slander case, where he won for Dungy versus Spencer, the defamation case, when he almost lost his property, he almost lost his marriage, he lost everything just by being reclassified as a black bill, reclassified as a Negro. This is the arbitrary deprivation of our rights. So just speaking on that, with the Civil Rights Act, they gave us a remedy even in their system of their civil rights. It's called the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which created Title 42 U.S.C. 1983. Under Title 42 U.S.C. 1983, we as Moorish Americans have the right to remove a state case to a federal court under deprivation of rights under color of law when we deprive of our rights arbitrarily. So these are key principles we must keep in mind when we navigate through the United States, etc. I'm going to go down to number 18, which is a very important one as well. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This is very important because Moorish brought us Divine Creed, which is our system of religion. And through this system of religion, we have a protection. This is called freedom of religion. But a freedom of religion is just not freedom of religion like you have a freedom to choose what religion you want to be a part. You want to be a part of Islam, you want to be a part of Christianity. It's more dealing with if you have the freedom of your thought and conscience, meaning like, say you don't want to take a vaccination shot. This is your conscience. You have the right to that. You shouldn't be forced to take vaccinations. We shouldn't be forced to wear masks. We shouldn't be forced to have vaccination cards to enter or take COVID tests. We shouldn't be forced to that because we should have the right to the freedom of our thought, conscience, and religion. That's what it means. It has nothing to do with just your practice and worship and observance. It has more to do with what you believe in. So everybody has the right to believe in what they want to believe in, whether it hurts them or not. For instance, if I felt like I shouldn't have to take a certain medicine, whether it hurts me or not, I have the right to believe in that. If I believe that medicine is not for me, you see a classic case of this when you're dealing with the late great Bob Marley. Bob Marley was the Rastafarian religion from the Ethiopian movement. And he believed not into operation, so he caught gangrene. He eventually died from it, but it was his right to not get operated on. So you see Jehovah's Witness and different religions have different consciousness and thoughts about certain situations. So we all have that universal right as well, and that's why they're declaring this, and that's why the Prophet brought us a religious organization as well as a national government. He helped us out on both sides, under the freedom of religion and under the right to a nationality. Now, mind you, this Universal Declaration of Human Rights was made years after the Prophet had been assassinated and established these teachings. He established these teachings all the way back in the 1920s, 1913 AD. These things then come out into the 50s. And so, Article 19 says everyone has the right to the freedom of opinion and expression. This is dealing with freedom of speech clause. So you see how these universal rights transferred to all constitutions. It transferred to the United States Constitution. It transfers because it's the principle, it's maxims that must take from this. These are standards that you must hold yourself up to, and not only yourself, but you must hold all law enforcers to when they're trying to enforce the law upon you. You have the right to media, meaning you have the right not to just tell people your opinion. Everybody don't have to listen to your opinions. That's not what it's saying. This is saying that you have a freedom of opinion and expression of that opinion through media. So, like, you can't be censored. And we see that's not the case even with the social media. We being censored. If you just say the word, I'm not even going to say the word because I might post this, but you know the word, the magic word. If you say the magic word, you'll see fact checkers. Huh?
The V word?
Yeah, the V word, the C word, the COV word. Or yeah, even the V word, as I already been saying, vaccination. But you see, when you mention that on social media, what happens? You get censored. That's not freedom of opinion and expression. You know, they say you spreading false information, or they say, you know, you're not speaking facts, or the facts you're saying is not right, or something like that, you know, which is not true. If you are not speaking the truth and facts, that's called defamation of character. If you're speaking ill about somebody that's not true, that's an Act 3 of our Constitution that says no member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion, at all that may cause harm to his brother and sister, because Allah is love. So this is what we mean by not defaming each other, but we have the right of opinion and expression. Because if you tell a lie on somebody or you defame their character, it might hurt their reputation. You might hurt their ability to contract or any of these things, then you are liable under the law for defamation of character. So this is a universal declaration. So the reason why we're going over this so we can be reminded of our rights. Now, Article 20 is very important as well. It says everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. Number 2 says no one may be compelled to belong to association. Now, that's very important because that transfers to Article 10 of your Constitution. Not in your Constitution, but the United States Constitution, pardon me. So what does this mean to have a freedom of peaceful assembly? During COVID, people could not assemble peacefully if it was 10 or more people, no matter if it was funeral, wedding, graduation, church, whatever. But the Moorish Science Temple of America, we always assembled, even during COVID, and it was not required to wear a mask. So this is what we mean by having the right to freedom of peaceful assembly, which is in another thing that's in the First Amendment. See, the First Amendment of the United States Constitution has maybe, I think, about 7 laws in it. Let's read it so we can get a full understanding of this. Let's go to the First Amendment, United States Constitution. This is a very important principle. Article. Okay, First Amendment says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So that deals with the freedom of religion. We was dealing with. That's one clause in this this amendment, the First Amendment I'm reading from the United States Constitution, that they cannot make a law respecting, meaning like they can't put one religion over the other. You might hear some say, well, this United States is a Christian country. That's why Obama, when he went to Kukla, Egypt, he read out of the Article 11 of the Treaty of Tripoli, which said that the United States was founded on a Muslim law. It clearly says that in the article. The United States was founded on Muslim law. It was not found on Christianity, because Christianity is a military operation. If we want to get real with it, it's a jurisdiction. It's a political movement. It's not for spirituality at all. So it is not. I'm not speaking on the Bible. The Bible and Christianity is not the same. The Christians adopted the Bible. That means you adopt the child. It means it's not yours. The Bible is not Christianity. It's not for Christians. Okay, but I'm not going to get into that and talk radical about the church or anything. But what I'm saying is that the freedom of religion is a fundamental right. Now let's go to the next thing. It says, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press. So the bridge means to take away something. So this is what it means by having in Article 19, the right to freedom of opinion and expression. All these are international principles that you see in your Constitution. That's why we have to study the Constitution to understand the principles of the Constitution, enforce the Constitution to those who took an oath to the Constitution because they are party to the Constitution. Then the next clause it says, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble. So this is the same thing at Amendment First, the First Amendment, out of Article 20. It says everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. So what is association? Now that's another word that's illegally. It don't mean to just be sociable. It means association. Let's read that out of Black's Law Dictionary. What is association? So we can understand clearly what these principles are. ASSOC. Not helping me out here more. Here's the definition of association. Association, Black Law Dictionary, edition 6. Association reads the act of a number of persons in uniting together for some special purpose or business. It is a term of vague meaning used to indicate a collection or organization of persons who have joined together for a certain or common objective. Object. Also, the person so joining the state of being associated. An unincorporated society, a body of persons united and acting together without a charter, but upon the methods and forms used by incorporated bodies for the prosecution of some common enterprise. It is not a legal entity separated from the persons who compose it. See also affiliation. An organization treated as a corporation for federal tax purposes, even though it may not qualify as such an applicable state law, what is designated as a trust or a partnership, for example, may be classified as an association if it clearly possesses corporate attributes. Corporate attributes include centralized management, continuity of existence, free transferability of interest, and limited liability. A business trust, quotation, is an association. Say that again. A business trust is an association when it has a continuing entity throughout trust period. Centralized management, continuity of trust, interpreted by death among beneficiary owners, means for transfer of beneficiary interest and limited of personal liabilities of participants to property embarked in undertaking. Say that one more time. Read that. That's key right there. That's a key. I'll read that whole paragraph. Thank you. A business trust, quotations, is an association. A business trust is association when it has a continuing entity throughout trust period. Centralized management, continuity of trust interpreted by death among beneficiary owners. Means for transfer of beneficiary interest and limitation of personal liabilities of participants to property embarked in undertaking. Means transfer of what? Transfer of beneficial interest. Transfer of beneficial interest. Go ahead, continue. And limitation of personal liabilities of participants to property embarked in undertaking. And limitations to property. To prove association with a criminal venture for purpose of convicting upon evidence that defendant aided and abetted illegal enterprise. There must be evidence to establish the defendant shared in principle criminal intent. See also Articles of Association. Articles of Association. Wrong. Thank you for that. Now we see, that's why you never so many words in law. Association is way deeper. Association deals with business trust, the transfers, beneficial interest, and limitations of property. How did we get compelled to association? The birth certificate. That created a trust, a business trust at that. Transfer our beneficial interest to them. It took us out of our beneficiary status. What was our beneficiary status under the treaty? The Treaty of Peace and Friendship. We had a beneficial interest that was transferred by making us Negro, Black, and Color on our birth certificates. When it turned us to be Negro, Black, and colored, it took away our beneficial interests, it transferred and limited our ability to have property or beneficial interest in the property. What is our property? North America, Central America, South America. Also, this is forbidden in the United States Constitution under Article 1, Section 10. Article 1, let's see here. Article 1, Section 10 says, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. That's a confederation. All these things are associations. When you come into an alliance, it's unincorporated. What association is, who can answer this? What association is arbitrarily depriving us of our rights? What is the name of that association? Anybody knows the answer to that? Go ahead. Danny Murray.
The public.
Public.
The public.
What is the
U.S. government public?
Okay, both of y'all said United States, but what association are they using?
Being part of the public. Being part of the public deprives you from all of that. They say that they give you your civil rights, but they are violating it in every instance you come in contact with them.
Okay, I'm looking for the name of the association. The public is, when you talk about being a part of the public versus the private, that's kind of inaccurate, because the public just means that government, we have a government which is called a private government. But what I'm looking for is the Bar Association. The Bar Association, that's what it's called, the Bar Association. So they are arbitrarily depriving us by compelling us to kind of be a part of the association. How? Every time you catch a case, they demand that you have somebody from the Bar Association to represent you. Right? So that's what you guys is kind of saying, but we have to put it in definition so we can clearly understand how they're doing this. The Bar Association is against international standards of law. You compelling us to be a part of association. Say if you try to defend yourself in court, they're gonna say, well, do you have a bar membership card? So you don't have to be a member of any association. You don't have to be compelled to the association to stand up for your rights and enforce your rights. So this is very important for us to know when we're dealing with association.
Can you say that one more time? You said the Bar Association against international.
Yeah, the Bar Association. The Bar Association is considered a confederacy, because if you look at the Black's Law Dictionary, it says associate. Just what associate is, it signifies confederacy or union for a particular purpose, good or ill, to join together. It says partners, partner or colleague. Do they not call each other partners in law, in the bar? If you ever heard of that term, it's called, some law firms are called partnerships. Some law firms are even called partnerships. So you have to understand that this is a confederacy. This is confederacy, which is outlawed and is unconstitutional. Article 1, Section 10 says, no state shall enter into any confederacy. So don't they have a Texas Bar Association? So the state entered into a confederacy that they have no constitutional right to do. So anytime you go to court, they compel you to get someone from that confederacy to represent you. that's unconstitutional and a violation of international law and standards, because you have a right, a fundamental birthright, to enforce the Constitution against anybody who depriving you of that. So what they do is they say, okay, you have to have a bar membership or certain things like this, but this is a violation of Article 1, Section 10 and Article 20 of the United Human Rights Declaration, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Clause 2 says no one may be compelled to belong to association. It says may, it didn't say shall. So that means you can consent to this. It don't say shall, it says maybe. Maybe doesn't mean it's mandatory. Maybe means it's an option. So you can compel yourself by hiring a lawyer. Once you hire that lawyer, you have compelled yourself to association. Okay. So let's go down. Let's read the last 10. Let me get a volunteer reader. Starting Article 21 and finish it out to Article 30. Michael Gilles, you want to volunteer more?
Islam. Article 21. Everyone has the right to take part in the government of his country directly or through freely chosen representatives. Everyone has the right to equal access to public service in his country. Number 3, the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. This will shall express in periodic and genuine elections, which shall be by universal and equal suffrage and shall be held by secret vote or by equivalent free voting procedures. Article 22, everyone as a member of society has the right to Social Security and is entitled to realization through national effect and international cooperation, and in accordance with the organization and resources of each state of the economic, social, and cultural rights indispensable for his dignity and the free development of his personality. Article 23. Everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just and favorable conditions of work, and to protection against unemployment. Number 2, everyone with any discrimination has the right to equal pay for equal work. Number 3, everyone who works has the right to just and favorable remuneration, insurance for himself and his What'd you say?
Remuneration.
Remuneration, right? All right. Insurance for himself and his family and existence worth of human dignity and supplement, if necessary, by other means of social protection. Number 4, everyone has the right to form and to join trade unions for the protection of his interests. Article 24, everyone has the right to rest and leisure, including reasonable limitation of working hours and periodic holidays with pay. Article 25, number 1, everyone has the right to standard of living adequate for the health of well-being of himself and his family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care, and necessary social services, and the right to security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, or other lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond his control. Number 2, motherhood and childhood are entitled to special care and assistance of children, whether born in or out of wedlock, shall enjoy the same social protections. Article 26, number 1, everyone has the right to education. Education shall be free, at least in the elementary and fundamental stages. Elementary education shall be compulsory, technical, and professionally. Education shall be made generally available, and higher education shall be equal, accessible to all of the basics of merit. Number 2, education shall be directed to the full development of the human personality and to the strengthening of respect of human rights and fundamental freedoms, and it shall promote understanding, tolerance, and friendship among all nations, racial or religious groups, and shall further the activities of the United Nations for the maintenance of peace. Number 3, parents have the prior right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to their children. Article 27. Number 1, everyone has the right freely to participate in cultural life of the community, to enjoy the arts, and to share in scientific advancement and its benefits. Number 2, everyone has the right to protection of the moral and material interests resulting from any scientific literature or artistic productions of which he is the author. Article 28, everyone is entitled to the social and international order in which the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration can be fully realized. Article 29, everyone has the duties of community in which alone the free and full development of his personality is possible. Number 2, in the exercise of his rights and freedoms, everyone shall be subject only to such limitations as are determined by law solely for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others, and of meeting the just requirements of morality, public order, and the general welfare and democracy society. Number 3, these rights and freedoms, democratic society, right? Yeah. Number 3, these rights and freedoms may in no case be exercised contrary to the purpose and principles of the United Nations. Article 30, nothing in this declaration be interpreted as implying for any state group.
It says may be interpreted.
Nothing in this declaration may be interpreted as implying for any state group or person and any right to engage in any activity or to perform any act aimed at the destruction of any of the rights and freedoms set forth herein.
Okay. So let's revisit this. Starting with Article 21, says that everyone has the right to take part in the government of his country directly or through freely chosen representatives. So we look through the definition of country, meaning synonymous with government of a fixed territory. So everyone has the right to be what? Part and parcel of the Moorish Science Temple of America or any home government that you have. This translates to our divine constitution and bylaws. It says all members must preserve these holy and divine laws and must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live life accordingly. So this is your right to be a part of the government and live your life accordingly. It says, number 3, the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. That means a republican form of government through the will of the people. So when we talk about sovereignty, how does sovereignty look? Sovereignty is not an individual power. It is a power given to the collective people through their government representation. The government representation holds the seat of sovereignty to express the will of the people, to represent their will. And it says that this is universal and equal suffrage and shall be held by secret vote or by equivalent free voting procedures. So our voting system does not have to be public. And our voting system is not public. That's why you have to become ADAP to have a vote in this government. It's a secret vote. Why? Because you don't have to express or share things outside of your government and functions and procedures that you're doing, because your enemy might get wind of that and counteract these things, which has been the case with our COINTEL operations that we have encountered through all our organizations that we have established, from the Black Panthers to, you name it, Universal Negro Improvement Association by Marcus Garvey. Even the Moorish Science Temple of America has been infiltrated. And you see that this is a problem, right? So this is why we have 8-up chambers. Okay. It says the will of the people shall be the basis of authority. We know the word authority means what? Jurisdiction. So we can start to understand what authority is. Authority is what? Delegation of power as well, right? So the powers, that's what I'm explaining to you, is delegated through the people to who? The representation of your government. So this is government procedures they're breaking down. Article 22 is a good one as well. It says everyone as a member of society has the right to Social Security and is entitled to realization through national effort and national cooperation according with the organization and resources of each state of the economic, social, and cultural rights indispensable for his dignity and free development of his personality. What does this thing mean? A citizen is a member. We went over this Friday, that citizens are members, right? So that's why in our divine constitution and bylaws, it says all members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. So this is our society, right? Society is not what people might use in general terms of saying, oh, the public is society. Well, you have to define this in law because these are law words. The public, society, these are words as legalese that you must define by law in Black's Law Dictionary. Society means an organization. We have an organization here. It's not a secret society as the Masons, but it's a society. Okay? And everyone has a right as being a member. When you're a member, you have rights restored to you. Let's go to 23. It says everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment. So you see that being violated all the time, right? Because you see Mexicans or other Americans who try to work in North America for the United States corporations. They have to have certain green cards. They have to have certain Social Security cards. But that means that that's not a right. That means it's something that is privileged to you. That's licensed. They can be revoked at any time, but you have a right to work. You have a right to this. Why? For your remuneration. That's a hard word. I can't even pronounce it sometimes. Let's look up that word, remuneration, since it's such a difficult word for us to pronounce. Let's look it up so we get an understanding of what it is. Okay, REM. You have to look at the word remuneration. Remuneration to understand what remuneration is. Let me look at that. EMU. Okay. Word remunerated. This term is often used in law as equivalent to mention specifically designated or expressly named or granted, as in speaking of remunerated governmental powers, items of property, or articles in a tariff schedule. So this means something that's designated to you. So it says everyone who works has the right to just and favorable remuneration, ensuring for himself and his family an existence worthy of human dignity and supplemented if necessary by other means of social protection. So these are things that's designated to you. They remunerated to you. So that means that they appointed to you. Okay, so they says you can be remuneration means that these are reappointed to you because these are already fundamental rights, but this declaration is now letting you know that you also have it restored to you. Because remember, we are to restore our what? Our sovereignty, our estates. So I'm going to read another definition. It says enumerated powers. It says the powers specifically delegated by the Constitution to some branch or authority of the national government, and which are not denied to that government or reserved to the states or to the people. The powers specifically given to Congress are enumerated in Article 1 of the United States Constitution. So this is another word that's saying like delegated from the Constitution. So every Constitution delegates you certain rights. So you are enumerated. Let's go down. Now it says Article 24 deals with working hours, periodic holidays with pay. Everyone has the right to rest and leisure. Rest and leisure. So that means you have the right to take days off. You have the right to have holiday pay. You have the right to get overtime. So when you are deprived of like your overtime, or you deprived of taking a day off for your religious observation, that's why I tell Moors, you shouldn't have to miss work. You shouldn't be fired from work for having to miss because you are attending Moorish Science Temple of America meetings. Because this is a fundamental right. They can't deny you your right from rest and leisure. You see how it says everyone has the right to rest and leisure. What is our day of rest? Friday is our holy day of rest. You have a right to that. That's why the prophet had to reiterate that in our Constitution. This is international standards he was going by. He wasn't just making it up to say, okay, this is the day we need to rest. No, this is, and we know that metaphysical meaning of rest means to meditate as well. So we know that this is our day of rest. We have a holy day of rest. So you can express that to your employer. Look, I need Friday off. You can show them the Constitution. Friday is my holy day of rest. He cannot discriminate against that, according to international law, constitutional law, or even our divine constitution bylaws. That must be respected. So we must know this. Also, Article 25, it says everyone has the right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and family, including food, clothing, housing, medical care. So that means that you cannot be denied help getting these things like Section 8, like Medicare. You don't have to do anything to qualify for these things. These are all right because they're really free. How can the government give away all this EBT and all these type of things? Because it's free. There's no money in circulation to begin with. I'm not going to get into that, but we already know there's no money in circulation to begin with. So these things should never be denied to you. If you deny it for EBT, you deny Section 8, you can bring them up on international law charges. That's deprivation of your rights. You have a right to a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of yourself and your family, including food, clothing, housing, and medical care, and necessary social services. And the right to security in the event of unemployment. So you can't be denied for what? Unemployment. This is international standard. You can't be denied to the right of security in unemployment, sickness. So you have the right to take 6 days, disability, widowhood, old age. These are rights when we're dealing with our civil rights. This is more of a civil right, but it's a human right as well, because it don't mean because a civil right is more than like if you're part of the United States Constitution or you're part of the United States Corporation. These are your civil rights. But what if you're not a part of the United States Corporation? You still have human rights. And then it says motherhood and childhood are entitled to special care and assistance. Motherhood and childhood are entitled to this. You're entitled. That means a rank or position. Motherhood is a position. Childhood is a position. Okay? So let's understand these things. Article 26. Everyone has the right to education. So what we was talking about earlier when we began this meeting, we was talking about Brown versus Board of Education. when we were segregated under Jim Crow laws, and then the Civil Rights Movement fought to establish these laws, which they won. But at the end of the day, we don't supposed to be a part of European schools, but you do have a right to education. So that means you shouldn't happen to be paying for no type of education. This is your right. It don't say everybody has the right to pay for education. It says education shall be free. Does it not? At least in the elementary and fundamental stages. So we can't make a technical school be free. Like you can't make the school of thought for our law class be free. But educational and fundamental stages, that should always be free. So when you see these public schools, you think they're doing something out of goodness of their heart. But really, this is your right to have free education. You shouldn't have to pay for these things, right? It says technical and professional education shall be made generally available, and higher education shall be equally accessible to all on the basis of merit. Okay. Number 226, it says education shall be directed to the full development of the human personality and to the strengthening of respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. It shall promote understanding, tolerance, and friendship among all nations, racial and religious groups. So we can use this to bring what education to these education systems to bring them understanding, tolerance, and friendship between nations. This is called diversity of citizenship. When we have Moorish Americans dealing with U.S. citizens or dealing with the United States corporation, we should be able to go into their schools and teach them tolerance, understanding, and friendship among our nation, so they can grow up and know when they become a police officer for the United States corporation, guess what? They have to have a certain tolerance and understanding and friendship with us. We shouldn't be at odds in war, but because of the lack of understanding, people don't understand and never heard of a Moorish American, right? We have the right to educate these people. See, the right to education doesn't mean that you also get educated. It means that you have the right to educate others. They have the right to receive this education. You have the right to give this education. Okay? Number 3, this is a key one. Parents have a prior right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to their children. So our children do not have to attend their public schools. We can establish our own school. Parents have the right to choose whatever kind of education you want for your children. It's not a force. We shouldn't be held for truancy or, those type of penalties because you want to homeschool your child. This is for homeschooling. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to homeschool your child, you have the right to do so. This is your universal right. You don't have to be forced into these things when you understand your rights as a parent, right? Let's go to 27. Article 27 has, everyone has the right to freely to participate in the cultural life of the community, to enjoy the arts and share in scientific advancement and its benefits. Okay, so you have the right to participate in the cultural life. What does the cultural life looks like? Our music, our arts, our food, our celebrations. You have the right to celebrate our prophet. We have the right to eat vegan food. We have the right to grow our own food. These are cultural life of the community. We have the right to form our own community and participate in that and building our own community, getting some land, growing our own food and crops, sharing it with each other. We have a right to do this. Okay. Number 2 says everyone has the right to the protection of the moral and material interests resulting from any scientific, literary, or artistic production of which he is the author. That's called copyrights. Right? You have the right to the protection of whatever you create as an author, whether it's scientific purposes, literary purposes, or artistic. You have the right to this. You don't have to necessarily register your copyright to have a right to no one infringing on your copyrights. Okay. Let's go to 29. Let's get down to 29. It says, everyone has duties to the community in which alone the free and full development of his personality is possible. Everyone has duties. So now this is not even telling you right, it's telling you a duty you have. And see, this is what we're going to lead to in our Holy Quran, the social duties. The social duties. Everybody has a duty. So you're not just here to exist. That's why our Constitution, Article 7 says, Act 7, Part 7, says that sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become a part of the uplifting of all humanity. That's a duty put upon you. As a child, we all are children. We all have parents. So we all children. We all sons and daughters here. So everyone has a duty here. We are sons and daughters of society. Right? So let's go into our Holy Quran. Let's activate our Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Circle 7, divinely prepared by the noble prophet to redeem people, to redeem part itself by the God and his Father God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful fallen stage of man back to the highest plane of life with his Father God Allah. I want to go into the social duties briefly so we can see what the prophet was preparing us for. That's chapter 30. Chapter 30, Holy Instruction from the Prophet, the social duties. So now that we know our rights, notice how they put it at the end of it. They gave us our rights. Now they told us we had a duty to this, right? So let's go to chapter 30, Holy Instruction from the Prophet, the social duties. We have a duty in this society. Verse 1 says, when thou considerest thy wants, when thou beholdest thy imperfections, acknowledge his goodness, O son of humanity, who honored thee with humanity, endued thee with speech, and placed thee in society to receive and confer reciprocal helps and mutual obligation. So this is verse 1. This is our duty. When you consider your own wants, behold your imperfections first, and then acknowledge the goodness of Allah. He made you a son or daughter of humanity. He honored thee with humanity. He endued you with a speech. It means freedom of speech. He gave you freedom of speech. This is your right. This is what we mean by inalienable rights. And placed thee in society. Why are you in society? Why are we in the Moorish Science Temple of America? The answer is right here. To receive and confer reciprocal helps and mutual obligations. So we are here to receive help, right? But also to give help. It should be reciprocated, right? And we all have mutual obligations. This is not on Grand Sheik, right? It's on all members to what? Preserve and proclaim these holy and divine laws. It's on all. It's a mutual obligation put on all of us equally. It's not just on Grand Sheik to have these obligations, but it's you as a member. You as a member have an obligation. Let's continue reading. Verse 2 says, protection from injuries. Protection from injuries, thy enjoyments of the comforts and the pleasures of life. All these owe us to the assistance of others. Could us not enjoy but in the bands of society. So this is what it means. This is why we're here together. Because you can go out there and fight for yourself against those injuries, right? You can go against Rome by yourself if you choose to. But when you have the assistance of others and you're giving assistance to others, now we all can have protection from injuries. Because we all can assist each other in the bands of society. In the band of society. What is a band? A band is like an orchestration of different instruments and different things together, or people coming together as a band. So that's why we have to form this government as a band, because this is how we're going to protect each other. Verse 3 says, it is thy duty. It is thy duty to be a friend to mankind, as it is thy interest that man should be friendly to thee. Right? So we just read this. We just read this in the same article. We just read this, right? About being a part of mankind, helping out society. Everybody has a duty in the community. Right? So you have a duty. This is your duty to be what? A friend to mankind. As in thy interest, that man should be a friendly to thee. Verse 4 says, as the rose breedeth sweetness from his own nature, so the heart of the benevolent man produces good works. Verse 5, he enjoyed the ease and tranquility of his own breast and rejoiced in the happiness and prosperity of his neighbor. Okay, so it's very important to know that you should enjoy the protection. Tranquility is protection. And the ease of your own breast and rejoice in happiness. So you should have protection in your own happiness to feel good. Nobody should, make you deprive you of your rights of happiness, eternal happiness at that. Verse 6 says, he opened not his ear unto slander. The faults and the felons of men give a pain to his heart. 7, his desire is to do good. He searches out the occasions thereof, and removing the oppression of another, he is relieved. Verse 8, from the largeness of his mind, he comprehended in his wishes the happiness of all men, and from the generosity of his heart, he endeavored to promote it. Okay, so we see in our social duties, what is our duty? So we confused about our duty. Social duties is an international standard. It's not just a standard of our Quran. Our Quran is the international standard. You see, this was made years after this Quran was produced. Way years after. Okay? Anybody have any questions? I yield the floor. For any questions at this time, be presented to the floor. Islam.
Hold on, I got a question. Hold on. I got to find it in the paragraph. It says something about democracy.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Article 20, down in the 20s somewhere.
Article 29 says public order and general welfare in a democratic society. That's what you was referring
democratic. Oh, shit. Yeah, all right, my bad.
Democratic society.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
Mm-hmm. So that's what the United States is. They're a democratic society. So even in a democratic society, it says what? Verse 2 says, in the exercise of his rights and freedoms, everyone shall be subject only to such limitations as are determined by law, solely for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others, and of meeting the just requirements of morality, public order, and the general welfare in a democratic society. Okay. So, we know the United States is a democratic society, not a Republican form of government, as they should be. Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution said that it should guarantee a Republican form of government. That's Article 4, Section 4. So let's go to Black's Law Dictionary so that we can have an understanding of what democracy is. Democracy, the form of government in which the sovereign power resides in and is exercised by the whole body of free citizens, directly or indirectly, through a system of representation, as distinguished from a monarchy or a autocracy or an oligarchy, right? So a democracy is a form of government but you hear about people saying they're part of the democracy or the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. But Article 4, Section 4 says that every state should be guaranteed a republic form of government, right? Because republic form of government is different from a democracy. So they're saying a democracy resides, sovereign power resides in the exercise by the whole body of free citizens. It don't say that it's the sovereign power is in the people, which is kind of slightly different. It's, you have to go to a deep study on a democracy to really pull it out. But let's just go into a republic and see the difference real fast. Because it's the principle behind the matter that's really being questioned. So if you go to a republic, there's, okay, so it says republic. Republic is a commonwealth, that form of government in which the administration of affairs is open to all the citizens. You hear how that sounds? Totally different. It said, let me read that again. That form of government in which the administration of affairs is open to all the citizens. In another sense, it signifies the state independently of this form of government. Now let's read again. It says, Republican government, a government in the Republican form, a government of the people, a government by representatives chosen by the people. So the democracy doesn't say that. A democracy don't have those key words in there. A democracy says what?
Loosely views of government in which the sovereign powers are exercised by all the people or a large number of them.
Right. So democracy deals with a whole body of free citizens. So a Negro, black, and colored is not a free citizen. Right? U.S. citizens are not free citizens at that. Right? So the whole body, so democracy refers to what they call majority rule. The majority rule, but they're not talking about a population. Majority is the ones who are free to exercise their rights in their system. So you have minority, you have majority, right? So the minority is somebody who can't contract, Negro, black, and colored, U.S. citizens. The majority is the ones, the Vatican, United Nations, who run this. They don't say that this is the government of the people. But they get us to think that democracy is a government of the people. But that's actually a definition of Republican government. A Republican government says a government of the people. Just that simple, right? So this is what you get, majority rule, or you might hear them say mob rule. So the democracy refers more to the mafia and mob rule. The mob is what? A selective of people free to do what they want, basically, right? Because they have certain protections from the Vatican or the the Italian government. So you have to understand, like, the keys, like how it sounds good, but it's not good. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like this form of government is for the people, but and right here it don't say nothing about the people. It says free citizens. Dred Scott case said that nobody of African descent can ever be a citizen of the United States. So if you're not a citizen, a free citizen, then do you have any exercise in the sovereign power? No, you don't. So that's only in a republic form of government. This was illustrated in Article 4, Section 4. So this referring in this clause, even in the present state of form of government that we in, this democratic society that we in, we still have rights because they're human rights. Even if you're not a part of the United Nations, even if you're not a part of the United States of America, these are universal rights. Father of the universe is Allah. So Allah instituted what? The laws of government. That's in your Holy Quran, chapter on religion. Allah instituted the laws of government for the world, is what it said. So these are your universal rights through the Father of the universe. So that makes them inalienable rights. Inalienable rights. You must know that term. Let's read that term. While we have more time, we got about 10 minutes. Let's read that term.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, free citizen, if we look at the levels of citizenship that we talked about, there's 4 levels, and the highest one is national.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a minority, understanding what that means in the Black Law Dictionary is somebody who's a minor.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're pretty much already at a disadvantage if we're associating Negro, Black, or colored
mm-hmm.
in the court of law. Kind of what that's saying, basically, free citizen. So, like,
no, it's not. That's not what that's saying. Okay. So, and first of all, the United States of America can't grant no titles of nobility, right? So, the United States of America cannot have nationals at the level of citizenship. Okay. So they are foreign government, so they have naturalized citizens only. Remember, we gave this government to these people to naturalize, to have enjoyments on our land. So they can't come over here and be nationals, or they can't restrict nationals. They can't grant anything to the nationals. So in their society, they have privileges and immunities that's almost similar to national citizenship, but it's naturalized because they foreign on our land. So they only level citizenship only goes up to a naturalized citizen. And that's why you have to be part of a nation, a national government, because now you restored your right as a national citizen. So let's read the definition of inalienable rights. Inalienable rights, rights which are not capable of being surrendered or transferred without the consent of the one possessing such rights, possessing such rights, e.g., freedom of speech or religion, due process, and equal protection of the laws. That's followed by citation. So we can clearly see that these universal rights in a law are called inalienable rights. Inalienable rights cannot be transferred. They can't be sold. They can't be surrendered. Only way they can is by consent, according to Black's Law Dictionary. By consent. So that's why consent is the basis of how they get us to violate or waive our rights, right? They want you to consent to waiving your preliminary hearing. They want you to consent to, these things, because when you consent, you waiving your inalienable rights that can't be transferred. Meaning they can't give you a right. They can't grant no titles of nobility, Article 1, Section 10. They can't grant you the right of being a Moor or diversity of citizenship or grant you any of these rights because they don't have the power to do so. They can't transfer your right to freedom of speech or religion or due process of law. They can't say you can't have due process of law. We can't give you due process of law because that's an inalienable right. I have the inalienable right to due process of law, fair trial, right? Certain things must be established. Jurisdiction being number one. We read in the civics class, we went over jurisdiction being the first fundamental right or first thing you must establish when you're dealing with the Constitution, dealing with court, and any type of cause. So it says you can't be arbitrarily deprived. Arbitrarily deprived means what? That we must have fair trial, due process of law. If you deprive me of any rights without due process of law, that means I'm arbitrarily deprived. I'm in arbitration. I'm in arbitration now. I'm deprived of my rights without a fair trial. I have a right to citizenship. I have a right to a nationality. That Article 15 of this universal right says that, right? Article 15 says you have a right to a nationality. So how come while we're in court they act like that's not our right? Because we're in arbitration. Islam, Michael Lewis Ill.
Basically, when we in like traffic court and things like that, we basically just in arbitration.
Yeah, indeed. Because you haven't been given proper due process. You don't have injury in fact from nobody. Most of the time, it's not even a prosecutor. The judge acting as the prosecutor. He's acting as administrator, right? You don't even have, it's you against him, basically, you know. You haven't been given, because what is traffic court? If it's not, okay, there's only 2 courts in this civic class, only 2 courts, and we're going to go through this in civic class. It's criminal and civil, right? Criminal means an injury in fact, some injured party. A civil means a contract. So if I'm in traffic court, it's civil. So where's my contract? Where show me the contract I entered and I violated this so-called traffic or transportation code. Because transportation means what? To transport something, first of all. So how can you put a transportation code on me if I wasn't even doing business with your corporation and transporting and agreed to consent to these transportation codes? So that's the contract. The transportation codes is the contract. So they have to prove that they have this jurisdiction over you. By how can they prove jurisdiction in traffic court? By contract. But see, that's why they use our driver's license as the contract. That's why we sign a driver's license. You're supposed to put UCC 1-308 on there, right? To reserve all your rights. Islam, Michael Louisville.
Oh, yeah, that's all. You just said they use the driver's license as a contract. I think I don't know if it was you that pointed this out. If you notice over your name over your picture on your driver's license, it's somebody's signature over your name, which means you under their authority, and then you signed off on the bottom to make sure you contract. So when you hand
But
over
you know what
driver's
the
license,
go ahead. Yeah, no, that does not mean you under their authority, but they do arbitrarily deprive you of your rights like that, right? Because even though this instrument is a driver's license, it's a contract, it does not express that. So anything is not expressed in the contract is fraud, because it's not a meeting of the minds, which is the prerequisite to all contracts. Like, if we didn't have a meeting of the minds and agree to this, I don't care what I signed. You done tell me that when I signed this, that I can be held to transportation codes, I can be violated of my rights and my human rights. I didn't waive and consent my rights. So that's why we put UCC 1-308, because in the act that we did waive any rights, we still are reserving it. We still are reserving it because, you know, and me, when I get pulled over, I never present my driver's license, ever. I don't care if they got to take me to jail. I'm not presenting that fraudulent contract because I know what it means. I know you're going to try to hold me to this, even though it's not expressing this. So you can always beat it in court because you can say, look, where's the contract? If they produce the license and say, license the contract, then you got them. Well, okay, show me on this license where I signed to waive my rights, my inalienable rights. Show me where it says that express. It can never show you this, right?
So that kind of like value and consideration.
Value and consider, that was our elements of a contract, but the element we speaking on is the meeting of the mind. See, value and consideration means that a contract must have something valuable in exchange with each other. Consideration means like you giving me something, I'm giving you something. Now we contracting. But if there's no consideration, that's an element when you're dealing with like mortgage or you're dealing with student loan.
Birth certificate too, huh?
No, because that's not really a contract. You enter. I'm talking about like, I mean, it does apply to that. Don't get me wrong. If they try to enforce that as a contract on you, they have to prove that it's consideration. But the number one thing you always remember, it has to be an offer and acceptance, right? So what is the offer that they gave you? And what did you accept it to? So that's where the meeting of the minds take place. So that means like you can't add something in this contract that's not written out. So that's what we're dealing with. So a birth certificate or a driver's license, where does it says that I waive my rights? Where does it says that you have certain rights on a birth certificate? It doesn't express that, so it's fraud because there's no meeting of the minds. And that's the most important element of a contract is the meeting of the minds, because through the mind is everything created from, right? And we express our minds through contract in written form. So if we don't have it written form, and that's why, like say for instance, when you go into like eviction courts and you're dealing with a lease, right? And the lease, they have to have certain elements in the lease, or it's a violation of your rights as well. I lost my train of thought on that, but the meeting of the minds is the most important thing for sure. I mean, that's why it always has to have two signatures. Michael Lewis Ill pointed out the fact that your license have two signatures, right? So it is a form of them trying to enforce an instrument or a contract on you because it has two signatures. So all contracts must have two signatures. It's like the U.S. dollar bill has two signatures. You know what I'm saying? So these things are very important to recognize. Like, okay, we have two signatures. That means that the director who signed this, he's liable for the violations of his contract. He's in fraud, the director of the motor vehicles. You know, the ones who sign on the top of your picture. So he's that liable. He put his wet ink on that. You know what I'm saying? So we can hold these people liable for a lot of things once we understand contract law and criminal law. There's only two types of courts and cases you're going to have. Family court is civil. Traffic court is civil. Everything is civil, really, in the United States. All crimes are commercial at the end of the day, 72.11, right? So they don't have jurisdiction over any criminal cases because a crime committed has to be a violation of the treaty, for one. We as Moorish Americans, we are not subject to the United States Constitution. We're not subject to the federal codes. We're not subject to anything but our own divine constitution bylaws, and we're subject to the international treaty. That's it. You know, that we made, because those are contracts, and contract is the highest law of the land. Contract is the highest law of the land. Contract is a treaty. Contract is a constitution. That's why you have to have signing parties. So we're going to get deeper into that in civics class. So civics class will be next week. This Wednesday, we will have government meeting for all government officials on here, 7 p.m. And then the following Wednesday after that will be civics class. We'll pick it up again. Okay. Everybody do their homework, right? You have 100 definitions that you need to be doing. Get that done. It's only for your own benefit. We're going to close out this meeting promptly. Reading from the prophet. Thank you for making a meeting, Morris. To be proclaimed at every meeting, Article 26 in the Moorish literature. Islam, I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me in the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials in the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement the uplifting funds. The ones that pay their divine respect to me in the movement will be remembered. That's why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, in your divine Moorish movement. I need finance. I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy. Because of my fame and nobility, the nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet number Jalil. All rise for the reading of the Moorish American prayer. It's the East. Fields touching. Feet at a 90-degree angle. Squares on wings, angels. 5 to the left, 2 to the right. Repeat after me, Moorish American prayer. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father, love.
Father, love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My God.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
It was holy prophet.
It was holy prophet.
You are leading. Amen. Islam. We now greet each other's meetings and now being redeemed. Islam, Islam. Salvation, Allah, unity, boys.
Salvation, Allah, unity.
Hey, Sheik, real quick. I got that pacer number. We'll get into that account.
Okay. Can you send it to my text message?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Thank you.